All right, here it is because somebody requested it. EOCT Study Guide Review, Quadratic B. We didn't get a chance to go over all these, so we will, or I will, and you can watch. All right, first things first, before we talk about any of the stuff on this page, and this is a really good page to look at, let's talk about circles and parabolas, okay? And let's talk about it this way. Not all the stuff about the angles and stuff. Let's talk about it in terms of equations of a circle and equations of a parabola. Now, circles, the basic format is this. Okay, the number on the right-hand side, I don't know if I can make this a little bit darker. Nope. The number on the right-hand side is the radius squared. Okay, so that means if you're looking at the equation, if you want to see what the radius is, you have to take the square root. If you're going to put it in the equation, and I know that the radius, for instance, let's say the radius is 3, then when I put it in the equation, it becomes 9. H and K stands for the center of the circle. Now, if you don't see an H or a K, like if you just see x squared, that means H is 0. If you just see y squared, that means y is 0. K is 0. Whatever the sign is here, it's going to look the opposite in the center because of this minus and this minus. So like if this says x minus 5, it means positive 5 here. Or y plus 3, that would mean negative 3 here, because y minus negative 3 would give me y plus 3. Okay, so that's the basics of a circle equation. So looking at this first problem here, which is an equation for a circle with a center at negative 2, 3, and a radius of 3. So if the center is negative 2, 3, that means h is negative 2. So x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared. See how it's the opposite sign of what it looks like is just the point. And the radius is 3. Well, if the radius is 3 and I square it, I get 9. So this is my answer, which is not shown. Remember, you always look at the answer choices and see what you got. Well, on this one, they're asking me to go ahead and actually multiply it out. This is the standard form of the equation for a circle. So usually if you're working with the equation of a circle, it's in this form. But look at my answer choices. None of them are in this form. Okay, I might be able to take some shortcuts, but the real way to do this is to multiply it out. In terms of shortcuts, I could go ahead and eliminate 2 of them. I can eliminate b and d. The reason I can eliminate b and d is because I know when I work this out, it's just going to be x squared in the front. Not 2x squared, not 3x squared. And there's no other x squareds. Okay, so remember to FOIL. I'm knocking out b and d. Remember to FOIL, so this is x squared plus 2x, so that's 4x plus 4. And then FOIL your y minus 3, y minus 3. If you're going, where did she get that 4x? Please FOIL, like actually do it, work it out, and you will see. Y times y is y squared, minus 3y, that's minus 6y. Negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9. Okay, so now I'm looking to see which one of these it looks the most like. All right, does it look like 22 plus 22, or does it look like plus 4? Well, if you have, remember an equation is like a balance. If I've got a 9 over here and a 9 over here, those cancel. So if we want it to equal 0, then you're going to have the 4. So this is C. So C is my answer. That's the first problem up here. Let's see what else we've got with circles. Okay, let's look at this one right here. A circle is centered at the origin and has a radius of square root of 5 units. Centered at the origin means HK is 0, 0. So x minus 0 squared is just x squared. Y minus 0 squared is just y squared. Don't forget the plus in the middle. If we have a radius of square root of 5 and you're about to square it to put it in the equation, that just becomes 5. When you square square root of 5, you get 5. Okay, so this is one of my equations. This is the equation of my circle. Now it switches to talking about a line. A line with a slope of 2 passes through the origin. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. My line has a slope of 2, so that's the m. If it passes through the origin, that means the y-intercept is 0. So I don't have to write plus 0, that's the whole thing. This is a system of equations. The easiest way to solve this system of equations is substitution. Meaning I'm going to take 2x and I'm going to plug 2x in place of y. So my equation right here now becomes x squared plus, and instead of y I'm going to write 2x. And that squared equals 5. So I substituted 2x in place of y. So x squared plus 2x quantity squared. The whole thing is squared, so 2 times 2 becomes 4. Don't leave it as just 2. X squared is x squared equals 5. So 1x squared plus 4x squared, that's 5x squareds. When I divide both sides by 5, I get x squared equals 1. So I'm going to take the square root of that, and remember, if you're the one putting the square root in the problem, you have to do plus or minus. X equals plus or minus, sorry, I didn't leave enough room. X equals plus or minus 1. So that means 1 something and negative 1 something. My line and my circle intersect twice, which makes sense. It's going to look something like that. Okay? When I plug in 1 for x, I get 2 for y. When I plug in negative 1 for x, I get negative 2 for y, and those are my answers. That's the 2 points here and here where my line and my circle intersect. Notice that the one right below that is the same idea. You have x squared and y squared, that's a circle, and this is just a line. Remember that a parabola has one of the variables squared and one not squared. A parabola is y is plane and x is squared, or x is plane and y is squared. Circles have them both squared. If nothing's squared, it's just a line. I'm going to do the same thing here I did up here. They've already set up the system for me. So all I have to do is start with the substitution step. So I'm going to plug in 3x in place of y. So I have x squared plus 3x squared equals 25. 3x squared is 3x times 3x, so that's 9x squared. So I've got x squared plus 9x squared equals 25. And I do need my extra paper this time. So this is 10x squared equals 25. Divide both sides by 10. And now I have x squared equals 25 over 10. Now, we could take the square root, x equals plus or minus square root of this. Okay, we can separate this. We can't leave a radical in the denominator. Remember, this is all plus or minus. So this is plus or minus 5 over square root of 10. We have to get the radical out of the denominator, so I'll multiply top and bottom by square root of 10. And you get plus or minus 5 root 10 over 10. We're not done yet, believe it or not, because 5 over 10 simplifies. 5 over 10 is 1 over 2. So plus or minus square root of 10 over 2. Now what did we just find? We just found the two values for x. So x can be positive square root of 10 over 2, and x can be negative square root of 10 over 2. Okay? We didn't finish solving. It says sketch a graph of the system to determine the number of solutions. I never did that, sorry. So let's come over here and do that. Y squared plus x squared, that tells me 0, 0 is the center. 25 is 5 squared. So let me just go around and go through 5. All the way up, down, left, right. And then the line is y equals 3x. That has a y-intercept of 0 and a slope of 3. So it goes through like this. So yes, there are two answers, 2 solutions, which is where I'd gotten to that point. But the problem is now I'm supposed to plug that in. Yikes. It's not as bad as you think, though, because look at our equation we can plug into. Y equals 3 times x. So all I have to do is multiply both of these by 3. That just means put a 3 out front. So there are my solutions. Kind of yucky. Yes, I agree. All right, next one. Here we go. Circle is centered at the origin and has a radius of 3 units. A horizontal line passes through the point 0, 3. So here's a circle. It's centered at the origin and it has a radius of 3 units. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That was way out there, sorry. Yeah. Not the prettiest circle I've ever drawn, but there it is. If a line passes through the point 0, 3, a horizontal line, then look what it is. It's a tangent. It touches that one point and no other point. In how many places does the line intersect the circle? 1. So the answer is B. Next, a circle is centered at the origin and has a radius of square root of 10 units. Okay? So that means x squared plus y squared equals, and now square root of 10 squared is just 10. A line has a slope of -3 and passes through the origin. Y equals -3x. If it passes through the origin, it's always going to be plus 0. So it's just going to have a slope and no y-intercept. At which points does the line intersect the circle? Okay, so here we go. I'm solving again. You could check this out and see if there's any ones that would be easy to plug in. Let's see. There's not many that I could just plug in and get automatically the full answer. So let's go ahead and do my substitution. That means this is going in place of y. So I have x squared plus -3x all squared equals 10. X squared plus, this is 9x squared equals 10. 10x squared equals 10. X squared is 1. So square root of x is plus or minus 1. So it's going to start with 1. The x value is going to be 1. That rules out A and D. Okay, so the x value is going to be 1 and -1. So let's see what I get when I plug back in. When I plug back positive 1, I get a -3. Not a positive 3. If I plug in a positive 1, I get -3. So it's this one. Okay, we are going to come back to this one. We need to talk about parabolas first. This very first top right, we will come back to. I promise. Let's see if we have any other circles. Here we go. Circle C has a center of -2, 3 and a radius of 4. Let's write the equation for that. That's x minus -2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4 squared. Does point -4, 6 lie on circle C? All you have to do is plug in this for x and this for y. -4, 6. -4 goes in place of x. 6 goes in place of y. And see if you get 16. If you do, that's a yes. And if you don't, that's a no. So -4 plus 2 squared plus 6 for y. Let's see, that would be -2 squared. This would be 3 squared. Is 4 plus 9 equal to 16? Nope. So that's no. That circle, that point is not on the circle. Let's see. Here's a circle. Which point is on a circle with a center of, that's x minus 3 squared plus y plus 9 squared. Remember, it's opposite signs when you plug it in. That's the h and the k. And a radius of 5 makes 25 here. So we have to pick these points, plug them in, and see which one we get. I see 3 different 6s, so I'm going to try plugging in 6. Let's see. I'll try one of the ones that has 6. 1, 6. 1 minus 3, that's -2 squared. -2, if I square it, gives me 4. 6 plus 9, that's 15. If I square it, I get 225. No ways that can add up to 20. So that's a no. Same thing here. If I plug it in as 6 for y, 6 plus 9, 15 squared, that's going to be 225. This is a no also. You can go through it though. Let's try D. 6 minus 3 is 3. Square it, you get 9. -5 plus 9 gives me +4. Square it, I get 16. What do you know? That's the point that's on there. Let's see. Any other circles? Nope. Okay, so let's talk about parabolas in terms of focus and directrix, shall we? Yeah, I know I'm getting a little crazy, but I've been talking EOCT all day long, and it's making me a little crazy at this point. I'm sure you can relate. Okay, if you have a parabola that opens up and down, one thing to remember is, here's the vertex, but one thing to remember is the focus is always inside the curve. In other words, the parabola curls around the focus, like it's protecting it. It's like the focus is a little baby lamb, and we're trying to protect it. We're curling around it, curving around it, preventing it from going out into the wide, wide world. Told you I'm getting a little freaky. All right, here is the directrix. Okay, that's what this is. So this imaginary line is the directrix, and there's the focus. The vertex is exactly in the middle between those two. So from here to here, like if that's 3, this is 3. If this distance is 6, then this distance is 6. It's exactly in the middle. Now, the one I'm showing you here, this is up and down, so this would be y minus k equals 1 over 4p times x minus h squared. Remember, one of the variables has to be squared. If it's up and down, it's the y that is not squared and the x that is. Now remember, we've also done this with plus k over here. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of whether you put the k over here or over here. Same exact thing. The way we know if it's up is if p is positive. If p is positive, that makes this number positive, it opens up. If p is negative, it makes this number negative and it opens down. Well, what is p? P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. That's p. So if p is up, that means you're going up from the vertex to the focus. If p is down, that means I would be going down from my vertex to my focus. Okay? This distance is the same number as p, but in terms of sign, we're looking at starting at the vertex and walking toward the focus. I'm standing at home base and I'm walking toward my baby lamb. Okay? That's what p, that's how I get p. Now, if it opens left and right, we just trade the x's for y's and h's for k's. K always goes with y. H always goes with x. So this would be if I open to the right or to the left. Right is positive, left is negative. So since this one is opening to the right, that means if I go from my vertex to the focus, to the baby lamb, I'm going a positive direction, so P is positive. Here's my directrix. Now here's an interesting thing about the directrix. Looking back over here, it's a horizontal line. The equations of horizontal lines are always y equals some number. This started with y. So if this starts with y and has x squared, y equals a number. In other words, if y is the one that's not squared, it's going to have y equals here. This is a vertical line. Vertical lines are always x equals some number. This started with x. So that's one way to tell. All right, so now looking at the first problem on this sheet, on the first upper right, sorry, it said which shows an equation for the parabola with a focus at 10, 0 and a directrix of x equals 2. Okay, you will have graph paper. All right, so I would strongly advise using it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll try to be as accurate as possible. X equals 2 is my directrix. So I go to 2 and I go straight up and down from that. That's the vertical line, x equals 2. That's the directrix. The focus is at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 0. That's the focus. Remember we said that the vertex is right in the middle between the directrix and the focus. So the vertex has to be in the middle somewhere in here. So let's see how far apart these are. This is at 2, this is at 10. The distance from 2 to 10 is 8. So if I go halfway from either side, come 4 from this direction, or 4 from this direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6, 0. Another way of doing it is, if it's right in the middle, that means in the middle between 10 and 2. So average 10 and 2. 10 plus 2 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. That's the middle between 10 and 2. So this is my vertex. It always opens to curl around the focus. So this is opening and curving around the focus, protecting the focus from the world. So that's what this looks like. Okay, so the question is, the reason I'm drawing it is I have to figure out what P is. P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. This one's going to be positive because it's going to the right. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So P is 4. Okay, so my vertex, I also needed to find H and K. So HK is the vertex, and P is 4. I know that this opens to the right, so I know it's X. X minus H, so X minus 6, equals 1 over 4 times P, and P is 4, times Y minus, what's the Y value? It's 0, all squared. Okay? Now, notice C and D start out the same way mine does. Keep in mind, it's possible that the 6 could be on the other side. So don't just immediately look and go, oh, that one looks like it's set up the same way. Okay? Work it out. It's not much to work out. It's just 1 over 16. And Y minus 0 squared is Y squared. And that looks identical to D. So my answer there is D. Okay, where else have we got something? No other parabolas here. All right, let's look at the top of the back quadrilateral problem. It says quadrilateral ABCD has vertices, and it tells me the vertices, so let's graph them. Negative 1, 3, that's A. Label them, don't forget. B is 3, 5. C is 4, 3. And D is 0, 1. Is ABCD a rectangle? Explain how you know. Well, there's one thing that defines a rectangle, basically, and that is right angles. It's a quadrilateral with 4 right angles, okay? If I want to know if I have right angles, that means I need to have perpendicular slopes or perpendicular lines. Like, for instance, AB and BC would have to be perpendicular, or BC and CD would have to be perpendicular. Again, CD, DA, etc., all the way around. So I'm going to find the slopes of all of these because perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So let's do the slope of AB, and I'm going to use these points here. Slope of AB, 5 minus 3 over 3 minus negative 1. That's 2 over 4, that's 1/2. Okay, slope of BC. What is this, 4, 3? Okay, 3 minus 5 over 4 minus 3. That's negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. And so on. And when I do the slope of CD, I will get 1/2. You actually should do it. And when you do the slope of DA, you will get negative 2 over 1. And these are perpendicular lines because the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. In other words, negative, they're opposite signs where they meet. These two meet at B, and they're negative signs and flipped over from each other. These two are negative signs from each other and flipped over. These two are negative signs from each other and flipped over, and so are these two. All right, next, a parabola has its focus at 3, 4, and its directrix at y equals negative 2. Does the point, blah, 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 lie on it? The only way to know is to write the equation and plug it in. Okay, so if its focus is at 3, 4, it didn't say to graph it, but there's no way for me to know if it's vertical or horizontal without, vertical or horizontal without graphing it. So the focus is at 3, 4. Directrix is at y equals negative 2. I actually am telling a half-truth because I know that it's going to be y equals because it's y equals negative 2. So I know it's going to be the one that starts with y. Y minus k equals 1 over 4p times x minus h squared. Okay, I know it has to open up because it's curving around this and it's going away from the directrix. Now, I also need to figure out where the vertex is. If this is at 4, up and down, I'm going up and down here. If this has a height of 4 and this has a height of -2, the difference between 4 and -2 is 6. So I can go down 3 from the top or up 3 from the bottom, and I'll know that this is going to be at 1. Okay, that's the vertex. All right, so h is 3, k is 1. Now I have to figure out p. P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. It's opening up, so that should be positive, and it's up 1, 2, 3. From 1 to 4 is 3. So 1 over 4 times 3 is just 1 over 12. So here's my equation. Now if I want to know if the point -9, 13 lies on it, I'm going to plug in -9 for x and 13 for y and see if it works. 13 minus 1 equals 1 over 12, -9 minus 3 squared. This is 12, 1 over 12, -9 minus 3 is -12. When you square -12, you get 144. Well, 1 over 12 times 144 is the same as dividing by 12, so yes. So that's a yes. Next, a parabola has blah, 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 focus at -3, 6, and directrix of y equals -4. For which value of a does the point A6 lie in the parabola? Well, that's an interesting question. So let's figure it out. Let me just get a new sheet. All right, similar to the last one, focus is at -3, 6. Directrix is down here at -4. Okay, this has a y value of 6. This has a y value of -4. Okay, so we know that I have to figure out the distance between 6 and -4, figure out where the middle is. You could do average. You could do 6 plus -4 divided by 2, like if you're averaging 2 tests. That would give you 1, and that's true. No, it wouldn't. 6 plus -4 is 2 divided by 2. That is going to give you 1. So what am I thinking? All right, or let's see, 6 and -4 has a difference of 10 between +6 and -4. I can go up 5 from -4 or down 5, and either way I will get to 1. That's my vertex. So h and k are -3 and 1. It opens like this. All right, so it opens up y minus k equals 1 over 4 times p. P is going to be +5 because it's opening up and going from 1 to 6 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. X minus a -3, so it's +3 squared. Okay? Keep in mind this could be in different forms. Like what if I multiply both sides by 20? It'd still be an equation of a parabola. It would just say 20y minus 20 equals x plus 3 squared. So it can be in different forms. So anytime you look for the fact that one variable is squared and one is not. All right, so for what value of a does the point A6 lie in the parabola? Best bet is to go ahead and plug in 6 for y and a for x. Okay, this gives me 5 equals 1 over 20 times a plus 3 squared. I would next multiply both sides by 20. Then this goes away, and 20 times 5 is 100. What do you have to square to get 100? It's pretty easy. 10. 10 squared is 100. So a plus 3 has to equal 10. So that means 7. 7 plus 3 equals 10, right? So A can be 7. Which information is needed to know that a parallelogram is a rectangle? The diagonals bisect each other. That is something that's true for all parallelograms. All parallelograms have diagonals that bisect each other. Diagonals are congruent. Yes, that is something that's only true for rectangles. Okay? This, congruent and perpendicular, well, bisect each other, we already said that's for all parallelograms. Perpendicular, that's for a rhombus. A rhombus has diagonals that are perpendicular. If this one has congruent, which means rectangle, and perpendicular, which means rhombus, this is a square, because a square is both a rectangle and a rhombus. So just to know it's a rectangle, diagonals are congruent is enough. All right, last but not least, a random survey was taken to gather information about grade level and car ownership. Estimate the probability that a randomly selected student will be a junior, given that the student owns a car. Given that the student owns a car says, I only care about this column now. I don't care about the people who don't own a car. So I'm only interested in this column. So estimate the probability that the student is a junior given that they're in this column. So I need to find the total for this column. They've done it for me. It's 18. How many of those 18 are juniors? 6 out of 18. So that's 1 out of 3, or 0.33 repeating. And that's it for quadratic B.